Hello and welcome around. Alright, today we're doing a little bit of a different video. So, if you checked my Patreon, uh, Tuesday, Tuesday morning I posted a little article post thing that was discussing my opinion on what I was hoping was going to be seen in Modern Horizons. Now, I'm going to do two parts of this video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my top 10, and then I'm going to talk about some of the cards that we've already seen. This is going to be a little bit different video, so I'm going to try to make it as quick as I can and as straightforward. Now, these are my opinions. Um, some are a little cuckoo. I get that. Others I think are pretty reasonable. And maybe some of the ones I think are reasonable, maybe they're insane. Um, Now, these are in a kind of order of how I felt at the time I was making this list. Maybe not quite standing the same so far at this moment, but either way, yeah, let's just go over those. So the first one is, as you can see right here, is Pernicious Deed. So of course, basically it's a catch-all removal spell that's going to deal with artifacts, enchantments, creatures, basically everything except for lands and planeswalkers. Now that's great. Green black. Right now, Pernicious Deed is, or not Pernicious Deed. Assassin's Trophy is great because it deals with basically anything that green black needs it to. And the big thing with it is it deals with planeswalkers. Now, another card that I thought about was Toxic Deluge, but I felt like that was a little too strong. So this is a card I thought that was a little bit more limiting, but that would still give those colors a really strong removal spell to deal with basically everything else. That's cheap, but also isn't just 3 mana remove everything. It's a way you can fight enchantment hate for your graveyard if your deck strategies for more graveyard based. If you yourself are a little more artifact based, you can deal with that. Also, just it's really good against creature decks. Like you can set this on the board on turn 3 against Death Shadow, and now they have to play around it the entire game. I think it's really good, but at the same time, I don't think it's so strong that it just fits anywhere you want it to. I think obviously like Jund will have a hard time playing this, even though it might want to. It'll just have to build its deck a little bit differently and be a lot more conscious of the board states it's building. Same thing with Green Black Rock. I think it's going to do the same things. Another thing is, I think this is a card that potentially could help a Sultai deck find its home. Again, everyone wants Sultai to be a thing, me especially. I don't know if this is a card that would do it, but I think it might help in that direction. So number 9 is another Sultai card, Baleful Strix. Now, Baleful Strix I think is going to be a card that helps blue-black decks or blue-black X decks find their way through this mid-range game. Because right now, they're in this really weird spot where green-black has this really strong mid-range plan. You know, there isn't really a blue-green deck, but the green-red decks have a strong mid-range plan. You know, Ponza, when it was more popular, had a really strong mid-range plan. Now, Strix is obviously a card that's pretty terrible against combo decks, but at Strix's worst, it's a cantrip. It's a Elvish Mystic that even Elves wants to play. It blocks basically everything. It blocks flyers. It blocks, Goifs. It trades with a 4/5, 5/6 Goif. It can pressure planeswalkers to a small degree, and it's a creature I think that won't have a ton of impact in the format in general, but I think it's a creature that can make Grixis and decks like that more plausible to play. For example, a Grixis deck being able to play Baleful Strix, all of a sudden you can combat Death Shadow, you can combat Hollow One, you can combat all these powerful decks better because now you have, I'll play Strix, okay, it dies, I'll call it on its command, kill your thing, return Strix, play Strix again. Now yes, that seems like it might be a little powerful, but when you're comparing that to things that other decks are still doing at this moment, it's not that ridiculous. The next one is Charlotte's Agent, which kind of ties into number 9. This is when I want both cards in, because it will create a Sultai deck for sure. It may not be great, but it will give us a Sultai archetype for sure. Charlotte's Bug was a deck in Legacy that was a very, very strong deck and arguably one of the best while it was around and really strong. We have Ancestral Visions in Modern. There's already a deck that wants to play that card abusively. Now, we're missing a lot of the big pieces that made the Shardless Bug deck super powerful and way over the top. We don't have a Hymn to Torok, and we don't have Wasteland. Those are two big things that deck had that we don't. Now, of course, this would have to be more of a mid-range control-based deck because, of course, which I mean, now with what we've seen spoiled so far, we have the new Pact of Negation, which being a 3-cost means Shardless Agent doesn't hit it on its way down. So it does give us a counterspell we can play, which is great, which is something I think makes this a real possibility. Also having a hit like Strix that is one of your worst hits that's still not bad is great. Yeah, and I think it's something that could be played and could be a really good deck. And I think it would be fun because it would create a new archetype in Modern that I don't think is too powerful. I mean, look at Bloodbraid. Everyone was afraid of what Bloodbraid was going to do, and she's pretty much been a dud. And if you watch Reed Duke and these other Jund players, even they kind of admit they don't really want 4 Bloodbraids. It's a little too clunky, a little too slow. And while it's really powerful, like against blue-white, decks like that, this kind of doesn't do what you want it to do. Anyway, number 7, Council's Judgment. Now, I think that removal spells are very important. Now, I think this one's kind of the least likely to be in there out of most of these cards. There's a couple that are obviously kind of far-fetched, but this is the one I think is least likely out of the ones I really do want because of the fact that it comes with the keyword Will of the Council. I don't think we're going to have an abundance of that in this set, mostly just because that doesn't seem like something. It's a lot of stuff to put in. It's a very strange one. Like, you know, we're definitely not getting a Coercive Portal. We're not going to get some of the other random ones that were made specifically for Conspiracy. But I do think Council's Judgment being a catch-all card that deals with anything, any non-land permanent is great. It deals with planeswalkers. It deals with annoying creatures. You might have seen one of the reprints back into Modern, or not back into, but into Modern, is now Nimble Mongoose. Well, Shroud, there's no real way to deal with Shroud, other than board wipes or sacking it. But now we have this. If we print Council's Judgment, and you can even upgrade its rarity if you were that. You can make it a mythic. I think it's still not too strong, but strong enough that it's useful. And I think it would be a card that would be wanted to play by Blue-Eye Control, by Jeskai, by Esper, these type of decks. Not like there's a real Esper deck going around right now. Also, I think a deck like Eldrazi and Taxes, or just Death and Taxes, would really benefit from this card being around. Plus, you'll probably see right here, I said there's a little bias in this because I absolutely hate Boggles. And this is a card that makes it so that it's going to be extremely difficult for you to lose to Boggles. All right, number 6 is Containment Priest. I have a learning how to play Reanimator video, not Reanimator, show and tell video that's going to come out in a couple days, and the last match showcases just how good Containment Priest is, while at the same time that kind of leverage is great against Dredge, against Phoenix, against Goryo's Vengeance decks. It's a card that would probably not see much main board play, but it would see a lot of sideboard play and a lot of the white decks for these strategies where they're not casting their creatures. They're just putting them into play through other means. Also, it would save the white decks from having to just play a ton of Rest in Pieces. I really like her. I think she's a really good inclusion. And I think she's one of the less powerful as far as abusiveness could be. I think she's extremely safe to include. And again, like, unless you're really pushing for like this, unless they really want to push dredging them even farther forward, I think this is the way that it's not going to kill those decks, but I think it might slow them down just enough for a lot of the fair white decks to have more of a chance against them. Moving on to number 5 is Counterspell, of course. Um, this is a card that I think is just powerful enough that it will benefit blue decks in Modern, but isn't too powerful that it would be like I think Force of Will would be too strong. I think Force of Will, while arguably could be said that it won't be too strong, I think it's just too strong for the format. Um, I think Counterspell being able to have a consistent turn to counter your spell, regardless of what it is pretty good. Um, Especially in a format where we got turn 3 Karns, we have, you know, turn 3 attacking with a bunch of Arclight Phoenixes, all these ridiculous turns. I think it's fine. I don't think it's too much. Um, is there risk to it? I could say yes, but I think it's fine. It's double blue. That's not the easiest casting cost, even though in Modern it's not that difficult. But still. Um, Control got a big boost from more of the Spark, but I don't think Control decks are at that point where they're just too good. I think they still just have a hard time with the busted decks, and I think this is a card that, don't get me wrong, we do already have Logic Knot, so I guess there's an argument for we don't really need it, because most of the time Logic Knot's going to be that counterspell. But of course, Logic Knot, when you get later in the game, is just a dead card. Usually. Alright, and number 4 is Dac Faden. Now, this is one that I think would be really good because of the fact that it fits into the Is It Phoenix deck really well. It also, I would like to see him played in like a Temur Moon deck or a Blue Moon type deck. I think him being able to combo with a new Narset would be really awesome because you can make your opponent draw and discard because it's just target player. So your opponent during your turn with your Narset on the table would get to draw one card, but then have to discard 2 cards from their hand. So if they're holding 1 card already, you could just, him to Torok them basically. I really like that application. I also like the fact that like a deck like Temur Moon a lot of times has got cards that it just is terrible at the time and it just needs to dig deeper, and you could do that. And of course, Is It Phoenix already likes to loot, so being able to play this on turn 3, loot, turn 4, get back a bunch of Phoenixes, that seems pretty good. Now, with that being said, it might be something that might make the Is It Phoenix deck a little too powerful. But I don't know. Also, there's an upside that it's got this incidental artifact hate, which I really like. I think it's really cool. All right, and I don't think anything else I need to say about it. I think that's pretty much covers it. This is another one that I don't think it would make enough of an impact to really be afraid of being overpowered. I think there's just a few niche decks, but I think it'd be one that'd be cool. I would definitely like to play some decks with Dac Faden in them. And number 3 is one that's purely, I just really want to play it in Modern, and that's Titania, Protector of Argoth. She's great in like a green splash deck where you're playing fetch lands and things like this, because she comes into play, brings a fetch land back, you can crack a fetch land, make a 5/3 token. She really clocks your opponent really well. The fact that if you make a token with her, that's 10 power for basically 5 mana, because that's it. Most decks in Modern are playing fetch lands. You can get her out pretty early, do stuff like that. I think that'd be great. I think she's got a lot of upside, but I don't think she has a lot of downside in the sense that I don't think she's a card that's going to be too powerful. I think she's going to be one of those cards that, yeah, we get a 5 mana 5/3 that makes a token or 2, but there's not going to be anything that's like, oh, she's way too strong. She dies to pass, she dies to all the normal removal spells. She's just a really cool card, and I would really like to play her. So that's the main reason she's on the list here in number 3. She's this high because I love playing her in Legacy Nick Fit, and I liked playing her in Commander, so that's why she's up here. But also, kind of to connect with number 2, much like with, 9 and 8, 2 and 3 are ones I would like to see come in together. There's a lot of cards I think would go really well with Veteran Explorer. Veteran Explorer, of course, when it dies, both players get to go get up to 2 basic lands, put them into play untapped. Now, yes, this effect is pretty strong, especially since we have the new Cabal Therapist that lets us sack a creature every turn, or sack a creature to Cabal Therapy our opponent. But I don't think it's something that's too powerful. I think it's a really good card, a pretty well a card that would be pretty fun. Yes, it has some risk. Yes, it might be a little too powerful. But another upside is I think it does something for the format that I would enjoy more, and that is it becomes this incidental hate for Blood Moon, because a lot of decks that already want to play some basics, if Veteran Explorer was running around and was say it was a pretty common card in a lot of different green decks or a lot of different fair decks, it'd be more incentivized for these other decks to play a couple more basics, so that if they kill a Veteran Explorer, or if a Veteran Explorer blocks, or whatever, the opponent sacrifices it himself, you'd get a little bit more value out of it. So I think it would be something that would give a little bit incidental hate to Blood Moon, and I think it'd be a really fun card to see in Modern, just because it's utility that can go into these decks. As far as a home, I think it would go into kind of a modern version of Nick Fit, kind of probably like a Abzan Nick Fit kind of thing, or maybe a Sultai a Nick Fit. That's something that's a Sultai Nick Fit exists in Legacy, and we have a lot of cards that go towards that now. All right, with that said, moving on to number one, and number one's kind of a crazy one, and that's Show and Tell. Now, the big reason I want Show and Tell is because we already have cards in the format that are super explosive combo decks that do a lot and are really hard to deal with. Now, in Legacy, you have a ton of cantrips to find your stuff. You have a lot of fast mana, and the fact that you have Lotus Petals and Simian Spirit Guides, so it's a lot easier to get to the mana way ahead of time. This is another card that I think is advantaged in the sense that it's not a bad card to put in the format, because we have Pact of Negate or Force of Negation now, and we have Fluster Storm both being printed. And both of these cards are really strong, really powerful, but they're able to interact with Show and Tell. And unlike in Legacy, the Show and Tell player can't force your Force of Negation back, because Force of Negation can only be played during your opponent's turn. And with that being said, as far as the argument of, we have some Spirit Guides in Modern. Yes, we do get in situations where, okay, you can turn one Show and Tell, or you can turn two Show and Tell. But without the cantrips to build up your hand, if you have a discard spell, or if you have a Force of Negation, you're going to destroy your opponent's hand when you counter the spell, because their hand's probably going to be an Emrakul, two Spirit Guides, land, Show and Tell, and then probably the powered down cantrips we have. With that being said, I do think there's a bit of a risk, but I don't think it's going to be something that's too powerful. I mean, especially compared to like consistent turn 3 Karns, I don't think a semi-consistent Show and Tell would be the end of the world. And we already have Through the Breach that in the Goryo's Vengeance decks is used to fight around the hate for graveyard hate. I think if anything else, we'd get a new kind of Goryo's Vengeance Show and Tell combo deck, and I really like that. Or just a Show and Tell combo deck. I think that's a cool idea to introduce a new combo deck into the format. Could it be too strong? Possibly, maybe even probably. Do I still want to see it? Yeah, I want to give it a try. I want to see it. I think with a Neo brand combo deck that was recently introduced, I don't think there's too much of a ceiling. I think it's completely reasonable. I think that it's able to be fought around. And with the new counterspells we've received, I think there's enough new hate for it that other decks are going to be playing, that it's not too much. Now, is it a risk? Yes. Is it maybe unrealistic? Probably. Should it be printed? Honestly, probably not, but I would really like to see it. Alright, and that's it for my top 10 I would like to see into the format. Again, Veteran Explorer, Titania, Dac Faden, Counterspell, Containment Priest, Council's Judgment, Shardless Agent, Baleful Strix, and Pernicious Deed. Now, basically everything from 4 and up are all things I think are completely reasonable to put into Modern with little to no effect. Number 3 is a card that I highly doubt happens, but I think it would be really cool. And then number 2 and number 1 are cards that I think there's very reasonable danger to put them in Modern, but that they could be. Alright, give me 1 second. I'm going to hop over and we're going to go over some of the Modern Horizons spoilers and talk about them real quick. Alright, everyone, sorry for that. Alright, so I want to first talk about the new rare land cycle we have gotten. And, of course, they're enemy duels, and basically they're Horizon Canopies. So, if for some reason you don't know what Horizon Canopy is, A, where have you been? But B, it's a land that you pay a life to add red or one of the colors of mana of the land. And then its second ability is you can pay one, sacrifice it, and draw a card. Now, currently we have 3 spoiled, it looks like, I believe. Maybe we have all 5, I'm not sure. But either way, they are, I'm assuming it's only going to be enemy colored. I think that'd be a little too awesome if they did a full enemy and allied cycle. But either way, it looks pretty nice, and I think if nothing else, this is going to be a surefire way to sell the set is with Horizon Canopy lands. So we have the enemy set, so we're going to have blue-red, red-white, black-green, black-white, and blue. What's the other one? Okay, well, I can't think of the 5th one, but you get what I mean. So all those are going to get one, which I think is really cool. And then we have another land that I want to talk about, Prismatic Vista. So it is a fetch land, but for basics. And I know you're going to say, oh, we have Evolving Wilds. Well, this is different because it's a rare fetch land where you pay a life, you sacrifice it, and you go get a basic land untapped. Also, we have new full art basics. We have full art snow-covered basics, which I think is awesome. I love these arts a lot. And I like playing with snow-covered lands from time to time. And I know most people do. So this is definitely going to be a pickup here. It's going to be super fun. Alright, so the first card I want to talk about, Seasoned Pyromancer. This card looks really cool. So he enters the battlefield, you discard 2 cards, then you draw 2 cards. For each online card discard, this way you create 1/1 red creature tokens. You know, there's a lot of decks like Mardu Pyromancer and these other decks that they play Bedlam Reveler. Now this is going to let you basically trade in your 2 cards for 2 new cards. But if you're sitting there with dead cards in your hand that aren't lands, this is perfect because you're getting free tokens out of it. And I mean, if they are lands, well, okay, you paid 3 mana to cycle through your hand. Not the end of the world. I think this card's going to have a lot of play, but there's even more. There's no more text. You can pay 5, 3 and 2 red, exile from the graveyard, create 2 1/1 red elemental tokens. So for 3 mana, he comes down potentially with 4 power spread across 3 bodies. Seems really good. And like a deck like Mardu Pyromancer, I think would really like him. A deck like Is It Phoenix would really like him. Like I think there's a lot of decks this guy can find place in right away without even questioning it. Alright, next up is Urza Lord High Artificer. He's a legendary creature, human artificer. When he enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 colorless construct that has +1/+1 for each artifact you control. You can tap an untapped artifact you control to add blue mana, and then you can pay 5, shuffle your library, and basically Experimental Frenzy, flip the top card. Now that I think has a lot of potential, could do a lot of really powerful stuff, especially if you have enough artifacts. You can just basically make a ton of mana and just flip the top card of your deck every couple, for basically every 5 artifacts you have. I think that's insane. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to find himself a new format or a new deck to be in. I think it's definitely create something new, and I think there's something with him and Sai. I think those 2 are going to have probably a pretty powerful deck built up, where I think we're going to see a lot of really cool things done. I could be wrong, but I think he's going to have a place in Modern. He's really powerful. Seems awesome. We'll have to see, though. Alright, so then, of course, there's Fluster Storm. We've all talked about this. We all know this. Fluster Storm being reprinted. An initial thought is, okay, well, this is kind of bad. This could be bad for the format. This could be bad. But it's a way that helps you to fight against a lot of cards that you have a hard time dealing with. But on top of that, the decks that are afraid of it also get the chance to play it. So, for example, the Storm deck, the blue-red Storm deck, they get to play this too to fight an opposing Fluster Storm or opposing counterspells. So that's it. There's like a lot of give and take. Plus, worst case scenario, it's going to be a Spell Pierce a lot of times. Which, I mean, Spell Pierce is already a good card. I mean, don't wrong. It only targets instant or sorcery, so it's not quite as useful as Spell Pierce, but it's still really good. Catch turn one Faithful Fluting, catch turn one Ancient Stirrings. It's got a lot of utility, and I think it's going to be pretty powerful. I don't think it's going to be too powerful, but I think it's going to be really good. Next up, Cabal Therapist. It says at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, choose an online card name that target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. So it's a Cabal Therapy, but on a stick. Downside is you can't use it from the graveyard. Easily, I think this card's going to have play in plenty of basically any black deck, tons of combo decks. And the thing is, it says you may sacrifice a creature. So it doesn't say you can't sacrifice him. It doesn't say you have to sacrifice a different creature. So you can just sacrifice him, which I think is really powerful and has a lot of potential. I mean, we've seen how good Cabal Therapy is in Legacy. I think this guy's got a chance to do some stuff, maybe to an annoying degree, but we'll see. I like the way he looks, and I think he's got some places, especially in like the Mardu Pyromancer deck. I think the Mardu Pyromancer's already gotten 2 cards that it really will gain a lot of advantage from. And I'd like to see that. I think Jund or Abzan playing Lingering Souls and stuff like that. I think is another deck that has the potential to gain from this and kind of get back on the map. Then we have Force of Negation. Of course, this one's pretty simple. It's our powered down Force of Will. In my dreamland, of course, it is cheaper to play than, or it's perfect in my dream world where we get Charlotte's Agent printed. But another interesting caveat to this card is when you counter that non-creature spell, if it's countered by this card, you exile instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. So, now, you can play it for free by exiling a blue card from your hand rather than paying its mana cost on your opponent's turn. Of course, you can just pay 1 blue on your turn to counter it. So I think this card's super powerful. I think it's going to be an awesome card. I think every deck that's playing blue is going to play it, even if maybe double blue casting cost might be a little rough. I think they're still going to play it because they're going to want to be able to play it if they can discard a blue card. So I think it's a really good card. Interested to see how it goes. Yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome card to play. And then we have Giver of Runes. Now, this is basically a Mother of Runes. So, the difference is it can't protect itself. So that's the one key difference, I believe. So, she can't protect herself, but she can protect other creatures. So in other words, you can tap her, give target creature protection from colorless or from a color of your choice until the end of turn. She protects your other creatures from removal spell. She herself gets killed by pretty much all the removal it normally would. So where Mother Runes can protect herself. I think this is a little bit of a downgrade that is okay. I think this is an acceptable downgrade in a way that makes this card powerful enough that it might see some play, but not super broken. What decks would want it? I'm not really sure. Mother Runes is a card that I wasn't really excited about the thought of seeing in Modern, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where she would go. I'm sure there's a place, and there might even be a place that's pretty obvious that I'm forgetting, but still not sure. Anyway, we'll have to see. I think it is a fixed, quote-unquote, Mother of Runes, but we'll see. Next up is Nimble Mongoose. This is a card I'm absolutely not excited to see. Of course, it has Shroud and Threshold. Gets +2/+2 as long as there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, which of course a Teamer or blue-green-esque Delver deck could do that pretty easily. Between this Pact and Negation, I think that we're going to see a new, maybe Teamer, but definitely blue-green Delver deck show up. We have almost everything except the cantrips that the Teamer or Canadian Threshold or Rug Delver deck had in Legacy. we have our power down force of will, we have lightning bolts, we have we have these other counter spells too that go along with it. We got a lot of stuff. I think it could be possible that we could see that. We could also see a blue-green version of it that just really plays the Mongoose, Tarmogoyfs, Delvers, stuff like this. On one hand, I'm kind of excited to see this because we also got Diabolic Edict reprint, and we now have Liliana's Triumph. So there is more sacrifice engines. But with this being printed, I really hope we do get a Council Judgment. Because again, I don't want to lose to Shroud and stuff like that. I really don't. I do think Shroud is better than Hexproof because it's not going to be like Boggles where people are going to be slapping enchantments on this thing, obviously. But still. Anyway, and the last card I want to talk about is Factor Fiction. This is one I'm super excited about. I love Factor Fiction. This is a card that is just absolutely great in Commander. It's super fun in that format, and it really is just in the current state where we have Narset and Teferi and these things where, or more specifically Narset, where drawing extra cards is not so good and not so possible. I think this card is a good way of getting around it, and it's a fun way to do it. I think Factor Fiction is a really fun card. So, anyway, that's the last one I had for this. I use MythicSpoiler.com to check the spoilers for this. They do have an option, I believe, where you can choose from. I guess not. Yeah, okay, I guess not. I was gonna say I thought there was. Oh, there's another one I want to talk about actually. Force of Despair. So it's the black force. If it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand. Rather than pay its mana cost, destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn. I think that's a card that's really powerful and kind of acts almost as the containment priest that I wanted. And kind of excited to see it. It's a card that, of course, is going to be in probably a lot of black decks. Maybe not a 4 of, but maybe as a 1 or 2 of, just because it's pretty good. But we'll see. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go and hit the like button. If you want to see more videos just like this, go and hit the subscribe button. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time.